Alright, yet another question people can ask us when we speak with them is this. What usually causes people to regret going too cheap when it comes to getting solar and batteries? So, the biggest regrets would be that they got this system that wasn't as reliable, and when it failed, they have to pay to get it fixed. So the battery industry is fairly new, so they haven't been. It's hard to say what the failures are going to be like over the next few years, but how many there will be. But we've been working in the industry for 15 years now, and there have been a lot of manufacturers that have come and gone, a lot of businesses that have gone boom and bust. Okay, a lot of solar installers. Okay, so yeah, and often those ones that went out of business, they were often focused on cheaper ones, or that they were just too expensive, without adding sufficient value in terms of reliability with panels and inverters. And so what's happened is the ones that would tend to offer like good value for money, but without compromising on reliability, so that were either very reliable and like were a little bit dearer, or that were more budget but still good decent quality and reliability. Those ones that have been the ones that have tended to stick around longer. Okay, that stayed in business. And so yeah, what's caused people to regret getting something too cheap? Well, the biggest thing would be that just they didn't get something as reliable, and so they've ended up having to deal with more issues when the battery or the equipment fails, and so they end up having to spend more to get it replaced. Because often what happens is the company that originally installed it either goes out of business, or they didn't have enough overhead in what they charged initially to have enough resources to provide long-term support. And so when the customer calls them up to get it fixed, oftentimes because they've cut back so much on the resources available, that they just try to focus on win the next business for new customers, without providing sufficient support to existing customers. And so what that means is that, you know, when they go to replace it, when they go to the company to get support, they either don't pick up the phone, or they've gone out of business, or they charge them as well to replace the system. Or what happens is they end up getting so many complaints because of faulty systems that's supposed to get fixed under warranty, but these companies they can be non-responsive. So either people will go to the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, or the New South Wales Fair Trade Ombudsman to get it to resolve the issue. So they end up having to go through all this hassle to get it fixed. So they might be able to get it fixed, or the company can end up going out of business because of all these complaints. And so it doesn't get fixed, and they have to end up having to go to another company to pay again to get it replaced. So they end up spending more in the long run, and they end up saving less. So that's probably the biggest regret that people have. Others would just be having to deal with more issues, like long installation time frame, like taking months to get installed, because again, they paid cheap, and when they paid cheap, the companies cut back in lots of different areas on the quality of the equipment, on the length of time it takes to get installed, and other areas would be the installation quality. So there's often more issues for example, with the roof, damage to the roof, damage to the property, not following proper installation guidelines. Sometimes, for example, there's a lot of different examples, a lot of different horror stories, but there can be safety issues with the equipment not being installed correctly, using low quality components, and so there's you can find plenty of videos on YouTube, but generally just cutting corners on installation leads to more issues, like so more issues with installation, takes longer to get installed, and less resources from the company. Because have you ever bought something that's been like super cheap, and then what ended up happening? You end up having to pay more down the road, right? Like, you've ever got something like a used car or something really cheap on eBay or Gumtree, or like got a quote from a tradesperson and they ended up just trying to do like this really quick job and just get it done, just a rush job, so they cut all these corners, and then you end up having to deal with more issues because of that. Is that anything like that ever happened? Have you ever known anyone that's had experiences like that? I'm sure most of us have had or experience like that, or at least know someone. So because these companies, they're always looking to just, like, that are getting something cheap, they're always looking to try to underbid other ones. What do you feel that usually means about the resources they have available to provide support for the long term? It means they don't really have a lot of resources, right? And so what happens is, when there's more issues down the road, there's more issues trying to get it fixed, or it doesn't get fixed, and they end up having to pay more to get it fixed. Okay. Or another issue I didn't mention is that the company is just trying to do like a cookie cutter approach, like just a one size fit all, without doing a detailed assessment of what could even be appropriate, and so because of that, they might overinvest, or they might get like this, spend a lot on get a big system that they didn't really need. So it might be a cheaper big system, but big is less reliable. Again, more issues down the road, more costs with replacing it. Or if it's bigger, but a more reliable brand, they end up spending more for that. And so, yes, they will get more savings for the long term than a smaller system. But it's not really, if their goal is just to eliminate the electricity bills, then a smaller system would be sufficient. If they want more future proofing though, from rate hikes, from inflation, and from more usage with air conditioning and then an EV, then yeah, go for it. Go for a bigger battery. If putting more funds into it but getting more savings out of it is fine, and yeah, it makes sense to go for a bigger, a more reliable battery for sure. Alright, that covers various facets of that. Any questions, leave a comment. Alright, take care.